The aroma of freshly brewed coffee wafted through the air, mingling with the sound of lively chatter and the rhythmic clinking of cups. Nestled at the corner of a bustling street in a vibrant city, the coffee shop served as a sanctuary for its patrons. Mornings in this quaint establishment were a symphony of activity. Baristas moved with purpose behind the counter, expertly crafting lattes and cappuccinos while exchanging friendly banter with regulars who arrived one after another. The shop's interior was adorned with warm wood accents and soft lighting, creating an inviting atmosphere that drew people in. Large windows framed the view of passers-by, allowing sunlight to filter in and cast playful shadows on the polished floor. The eclectic mix of customers ranged from hurried professionals grabbing their daily caffeine fix to artists absorbed in their sketchbooks, each contributing to the unique tapestry of life within those walls. Among the hustle and bustle stood Jenna, a dedicated cashier known for her radiant smile and genuine warmth. She thrived on human connection, always remembering customers' names and their favorite orders. The rhythm of her day revolved around these encounters, each transaction an opportunity for a brief but meaningful exchange. As she rang up orders, Jenna often glanced at the small community bulletin board nearby, filled with flyers for local events and initiatives, reminders of the lives intertwined within the city. Amidst this lively scene, there was a palpable sense of routine that enveloped the shop. The soft hum of conversations blended with the whirring of blenders and the occasional laughter from a table in the corner. Yet, even in this bustling environment, there lingered an underlying current of stories waiting to be told, stories of dreams, struggles, and moments of kindness. Little did anyone know that one simple act of generosity would ripple through this community, setting off a chain of events that no one could have predicted. Jenna had always had a passion for people. Growing up in a small town, she learned the value of community from her parents, who ran a local diner. Their establishment was more than just a place to eat. It was where stories were shared and kindness flourished. Inspired by this upbringing, Jenna moved to the city and took a job at the coffee shop, longing to recreate that sense of connection in a bustling urban environment. As she settled into her role, Jenna embraced the rhythm of the coffee shop. Every shift began with her donning a vibrant apron, ready to greet customers with her trademark smile. She made it a point to remember not just their preferred drinks, but also their names and snippets of their lives. Like Mark, who wore glasses and always ordered a black coffee while discussing his latest tech project, or Sarah, who loved her caramel macchiato and spent afternoons sketching at the corner table. Jenna's genuine interest in her patrons fostered an atmosphere of comfort. Conversations flowed easily around her, her laughter intertwining with the sounds of espresso machines and chatter, creating an uplifting vibe that patrons found hard to resist. For many regulars, visiting the coffee shop was akin to coming home. They knew they could count on Jenna's warm presence to brighten their day. Beyond merely serving coffee, Jenna saw her role as part of something larger. A sanctuary where everyone, regardless of background or circumstance, felt valued. This sentiment was cemented in her heart after volunteering at a local shelter one winter. There, she encountered individuals facing immense struggles who still carried hope and resilience within them. The experience stirred something within her. She vowed to extend kindness wherever possible. Little did she know that her compassionate spirit would soon challenge the boundaries of her routine life in unexpected ways, impacting not just those who frequented the shop, but also someone far removed from its warmth. On a particularly busy morning, as Jenna was ringing up orders, a soft chime from the door signaled an unusual arrival. The figure that stepped inside caught her attention immediately. A homeless man stood at the entrance, his clothes tattered and layered in an attempt to combat the chill of early spring. His hair was unkempt, and a scruffy beard framed a face etched with lines of hardship. Despite his worn appearance, there was a flicker of resilience in his eyes, an unyielding spirit that intrigued Jenna. The man hesitated at the threshold, observing the shop's vibrant atmosphere filled with laughter and warmth. Jenna noticed how he fidgeted with the frayed sleeves of his threadbare jacket, a gesture that hinted at vulnerability but also courage to be seen. After a moment's pause, he took a deep breath and approached the counter, his movements tentative yet determined. "Hi there," Jenna greeted him gently, her voice warm like the sun breaking through clouds after a long winter. "What can I get for you?" He looked down, shuffling his feet before finally meeting her gaze. Just a coffee, if it's okay," he replied slowly, his voice barely above a whisper, as if he were unsure of himself in this new environment. In that instant, Jenna could feel the weight of unspoken stories behind his words. Rather than ringing up an order for him, she leaned closer and asked softly, "How about I get you something warm for free today? You look like you could use it." Her offer surprised him. His eyes widened as disbelief washed over his features. "Really? I mean, thank you," he stammered, a hint of hope breaking through his guarded demeanor. Jenna smiled, pouring him a steaming cup of coffee. As she handed it over, their fingers brushed briefly, igniting a moment of connection that transcended their differing worlds. For the first time that morning, the homeless man smiled, a small yet profound gesture underscoring the life-changing power of simple kindness. As Jenna poured the steaming cup of coffee, the weight of her decision settled around her like a warm blanket. She could sense the trepidation in the homeless man's demeanor and saw the flicker of hope in his eyes. In that moment, she felt compelled to take action, not only to quench his thirst but to acknowledge his humanity. It was more than just coffee. It was a bridge between their worlds. As she handed him the cup, a hush fell over the coffee shop. Patrons who had been chatting and laughing suddenly paused, their conversations fading into whispers as they absorbed the scene unfolding before them. Jenna's smile radiated warmth, a stark contrast to the chilly air outside, while the man's initial shock transformed into heartfelt gratitude. For those few seconds, time stood still as eyes turned toward the unexpected encounter. Some customers exchanged glances, an unspoken recognition passing among them. Many were familiar with the struggles of homelessness but often felt powerless to help. Now, witnessing Jenna's simple act of kindness sparked a wave of emotions and thoughts about community responsibility and generosity. A couple at a nearby table leaned in closer, their initial surprise morphing into admiration for Jenna's willingness to extend compassion without hesitation. The homeless man took a tentative sip of his coffee, his face lighting up with appreciation as warmth spread through him, a feeling he hadn't experienced in quite some time. "Thank you," he murmured again, this time with more conviction. The other patrons began to murmur supportive words and nodding heads as if collectively acknowledging the significance of what they were witnessing. In that moment, Jenna became a beacon of hope in the shop. Her small gesture not only uplifted one person but also inspired those around her to rethink how they interacted with their community. As laughter and conversation gradually resumed, a new aura enveloped the coffee shop, one filled with possibility and kindness that lingered long after the man had taken his leave. The moment the warm cup of coffee touched his hands, a wave of gratitude washed over the homeless man. He could feel the heat radiating from the ceramic, contrasting sharply with the chill that had settled deep in his bones. As he took his first tentative sip, the rich flavor and warmth enveloped him like a long-lost embrace. It was more than just a drink. It felt like a small piece of comfort in an otherwise harsh world. With each sip, memories flooded back, of mornings spent in cafes with friends, laughter shared over steaming mugs, and a time when life felt lighter. The aroma of coffee stirred something within him, igniting a flicker of joy that had dimmed under the weight of his struggles. For those few moments, he was not just a homeless man. He was someone worthy of kindness and care. His eyes glistened as he looked up at Jenna, who watched him with an encouraging smile. "Thank you," he said again, this time his voice steadier, infused with genuine appreciation. The warmth of her gesture resonated deeply within him, awakening a sense of dignity that had been buried beneath layers of hardship. Around him, the coffee shop buzzed back to life. Patrons resumed their conversations, laughter filled the air, and the daily grind continued. Yet for him, the world felt momentarily brighter. He could see people sharing stories, their faces animated with joy, and it reminded him that connection was still possible, even amidst adversity. As he savored the last few sips of coffee, he realized that this simple act had sparked something profound within him, a renewed sense of hope. It was a reminder that kindness existed, even in small gestures like this one. Filled with warmth and gratitude, He smiled at Jenna once more before stepping back into the bustling streets outside, carrying with him not just the memory of coffee but a rekindled belief in humanity's capacity for compassion. As the homeless man stepped out into the street, the atmosphere of the coffee shop began to shift. The warmth of Jenna's act of kindness lingered in the air, sparking a ripple effect among the patrons who had witnessed the encounter. Conversations that had once revolved around mundane topics now turned toward deeper discussions about compassion and community. At a nearby table, a group of friends leaned in closer, their voices hushed but animated. "Did you see that?" one of them exclaimed, gesturing toward the door through which the man had just exited. "It's incredible how a simple gesture can mean so much to someone." Another customer, a woman sipping her cappuccino, nodded in agreement. "It really makes you think about how we treat others. We often forget that everyone has their own story." Her words resonated with those around her, igniting a dialogue that transcended their usual small talk. As patrons exchanged thoughts on kindness, some began to share their own experiences. Moments when they had offered help or received it unexpectedly. A man at the counter shared a memory from his childhood, recalling how his grandmother would always offer food to anyone in need. "She taught me that kindness is contagious," he remarked, his eyes brightening with nostalgia. The baristas behind the counter, inspired by Jenna's actions, joined in on the conversations as well. They shared anecdotes of their own interactions with customers and the importance of looking beyond the surface. Laughter mingled with thoughtful reflections, creating an infectious sense of unity in the shop. This newfound energy transformed the coffee shop into a haven of goodwill. The lively chatter was imbued with purpose, as customers actively sought ways to extend kindness beyond their morning routine. The atmosphere shifted from merely transactional to one rich with empathy and connection, reminding everyone present that small acts of generosity could weave a tighter community fabric. As the day went on, the coffee shop became not just a place for caffeine but a gathering spot for compassion, where conversations sparked ideas and fostered relationships, proving that even in a busy city, kindness could bloom unexpectedly and change lives. The following morning, as the sun peeked over the city skyline, casting a golden hue across the sidewalks, an unexpected visitor made his way to the coffee shop. Clad in a crisp army uniform adorned with medals that glinted in the light, Commander David Armstrong had an air of authority yet carried a gentle demeanor that conveyed both strength and compassion. He was a man of experience, having served in various capacities throughout his military career, earning respect from both his superiors and those he led. Having recently returned from an overseas assignment, Commander Armstrong found himself reflecting on the values he cherished most: duty, honor, and service to others. The stories he had heard while serving alongside his comrades about the challenges faced by homeless veterans weighed heavily on his heart. These experiences ignited a desire to give back to the community that supported him during his own struggles. On this particular day, fate had led him to the same coffee shop where Jenna's act of kindness had made waves just hours before he arrived. Hearing whispers of that heartfelt moment echoed across social media and community forums, he felt compelled to visit and witness the warmth emanating from this vibrant establishment firsthand. As he stepped through the door, he noticed patrons engaged in animated discussions about compassion, their laughter infusing the space with positivity. Commander Armstrong took a spot at the counter, where Jenna happened to be working. Her kind smile immediately struck him. It reminded him of how small gestures could create significant impacts in people's lives. As she approached him with her notepad ready to take his order, he paused for a moment before speaking. "I've heard about what happened here yesterday," he said thoughtfully. "I want to learn more about your work and how we can continue spreading kindness together." His presence caught the attention of regular customers who silently admired him. Unbeknownst to Jenna, this meeting would forge new pathways for collaboration as they explored methods for extending support not only to homeless individuals but also to veterans in need. It was a serendipitous moment destined to change their lives, and perhaps even their community, forever. As Commander David Armstrong settled into a seat at the counter, he couldn't shake the feeling that today was more than just a visit to a coffee shop. It was a chance to reconnect with someone from his past. Just a few weeks earlier, He had been stationed in a town where he met a homeless veteran named Mike. The two had formed an unlikely friendship, bonded by shared experiences and the weight of their respective struggles. Mike had often spoken about the hardships faced by veterans after returning home, and David had listened intently, vowing to find ways to help those like him. Mike's stories had left a profound impact on the commander, igniting his passion for supporting homeless veterans. He learned of the challenges they encountered, from mental health issues to societal stigmas that kept them trapped in cycles of despair. It was during one of their last conversations that Mike mentioned how a simple act of kindness, a warm meal or a friendly face, could make all the difference in someone's day. Now, as David sat in the coffee shop where Jenna had extended her kindness to another homeless man, he couldn't help but think of Mike. He felt compelled to act not only on Mike's behalf but for all those veterans who felt forgotten. Their conversation echoed in his mind. We just want to be seen, even if it's just for a moment. When Jenna arrived at his table with a fresh cup of coffee, the commander felt an unmistakable connection between their missions. I've heard about your act of kindness yesterday, he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. It's incredible how one small gesture can create ripples. As Jenna explained her motivations and the impact of her interactions with patrons, David realized they were both striving for the same goal, to uplift those who needed it most. In that moment, their paths converged not just through the homeless man from yesterday but through shared purpose. A commitment to spread kindness and address the needs of veterans and those struggling within their community. Their discussion blossomed into ideas for collaboration, laying the groundwork for initiatives that would bridge gaps and foster connections not only within their city, but also for those who wore the scars of service. Little did they know that this encounter would mark the beginning of something much larger, a movement rooted in compassion and community support. As Commander David Armstrong sat across from Jenna, the air charged with potential, he leaned in, eager to share the purpose behind his visit. You know, he began thoughtfully, the greatest thing I've learned in my career is that every individual deserves to be seen and respected. So many veterans return home carrying invisible wounds, mental health struggles, the weight of societal neglect, and it can feel like they don't matter anymore. Jenna listened intently, captivated by the commander's sincerity. His eyes reflected a deep concern for those who've sacrificed so much yet often find themselves forgotten on the streets. It's essential for us to remind them that their sacrifices were not in vain, he continued. Acts of compassion, like what you did yesterday, can help restore their dignity. They need to know that someone cares. It reminds them they still belong. He shared stories of his time serving alongside men and women who fought bravely but returned home only to face additional battles against isolation and depression. Mike, he said, referring to his friend, the homeless veteran, used to say that sometimes the toughest battle is just getting people to acknowledge you exist. Jenna felt her heart swell with empathy as she absorbed his words. I didn't realize how far-reaching one act of kindness could be, she replied softly. It always seemed so small. Never underestimate its power, David affirmed. A hot cup of coffee can nurture hope when life feels cold. He paused, allowing his thoughts to swim before continuing. You have the ability to create ripples of change right here, just by continuing this cycle of kindness and caring. Together, they began brainstorming ideas, hosting community events at the coffee shop where veterans could share their stories, creating partnerships with local organizations focused on mental health support, and perhaps even working together on outreach programs targeting homelessness. The vision grew as David articulated how an army's strength lies not only in numbers, but also in its commitment to uphold honor and support for one another. In those moments spent together over steaming cups of coffee, they forged a connection that transcended their different backgrounds. It was a commitment not just to help individuals like Mike, but also to restore hope within the entire community. In the days following Jenna's act of kindness, the atmosphere in the coffee shop experienced a significant shift. Patrons who had previously come for their morning coffee began to linger longer, sharing their thoughts about community support and reflecting on their own experiences. Conversations that once revolved around casual topics now delved into deeper discussions about the challenges faced by those in need, particularly veterans and individuals without stable housing. Small groups formed around tables as customers began to exchange ideas about how they could contribute positively to the community. One regular, an artist named Lily, proposed organizing an art show where proceeds could benefit local shelters for the homeless. "Art can bring people together," she said passionately, "and this could be a way to show that we care and are willing to help." Another patron chimed in, suggesting a monthly gathering where individuals could come together to share stories and experiences, creating an open dialogue about mental health and wellness. "Sometimes just telling our stories helps others feel less alone," he remarked, nodding toward the coffee shop's vibrant community ambience. When Commander Armstrong returned to the shop a few days later, he was met with enthusiasm. As Jenna greeted him with a bright smile, she revealed how his visit had ignited a sense of responsibility among patrons. The simple act of kindness she had extended had grown roots within the community, transcending individual gestures to plant seeds of collective action. "It's incredible," the commander observed as he listened to customer initiatives unfold. "Your kindness has triggered real conversations about support and service." He felt a deep sense of validation, that his mission to honor those who feel neglected was resonating powerfully. The coffee shop became not just a place for coffee but for healing discussions and actionable plans aimed at drawing attention to social issues impacting their city. As conversations buzzed around him, David realized they were all participating in a movement sparked by one small act, a movement that could uplift countless individuals in their community, reminding everyone that kindness is not an isolated event but rather a catalyst for lasting change. As the buzz of conversation continued to fill the coffee shop, it became clear that the ripple effect of a single act of kindness extended far beyond what anyone had anticipated. Jenna's gesture, offering a free cup of coffee, had ignited a spark that encouraged her community to reflect on their shared responsibilities toward one another. This moment illustrated an essential truth. Small acts of kindness can lead to significant changes in attitudes and behaviors, ultimately fostering a culture of compassion. The burgeoning discussions among patrons highlighted how interconnected lives are within the community. Each individual began to recognize that they were part of a larger tapestry woven together by empathy and understanding. Commander Armstrong's involvement reinforced this idea, as he embodied the very values of service and support that resonated with both veterans and community members alike. Through their collective efforts, patrons initiated plans for outreach programs, art shows, and storytelling gatherings, all aimed at uplifting those who felt sidelined or forgotten. This grassroots movement showcased not only their desire to help but also an inherent resilience within the community, a determination to combat neglect with care and connection. As plans took shape, it became evident that these initiatives were about more than just providing resources. They were about restoring dignity and honoring the humanity in everyone. The conversations birthed within the coffee shop spilled into other areas of life, prompting discussions in homes, schools, and workplaces about how individuals could contribute to nurturing a more compassionate society. In reflecting on these developments, it was clear that compassion is not merely an emotion but a call to action. The cumulative impact of simple gestures served as a reminder that everyone has the power to make a difference, whether through lending an ear, sharing resources, or standing up for those who feel marginalized. The coffee shop had transformed into more than just a place for coffee. It became a sanctuary for hope and solidarity, illustrating how one small act could motivate many to engage in meaningful change. Ultimately, this story exemplified how connectedness through kindness can cultivate not only individual healing but also communal resilience, a powerful testament to the enduring spirit of humanity when given the chance to flourish.